So let's get started talking about the 330 million gods of Hinduism. Number one. It warms my heart, thank you. Hinduism is the world's oldest religion, according to many scholars, with roots and customs dating back more than 4,000 years. In many accounts, Hinduism is even older than the Greek myths, the Roman myths, and Judaism itself. So what you're going to see when I tell some of these stories today are the comparisons to your faiths as well. Roughly 95% of the Hindus in the world live in India. Because Hinduism has no specific founder, it's difficult to trace its origins and its history. Hinduism is unique in that it's not a single religion, but a compilation of many traditions and philosophies. So how did Hinduism begin? Hinduism developed from the religion that the Aryans brought to India with them at about 1500 BCE, so about 3,500 years ago. Its beliefs and practices are based on the Vedas, a collection of hymns that refer to actual historical events that Aryan scholars have completed by about 800 BCE. Hinduism encourages living a good life with the hope of being rewarded in this life and the next. What I hope that you gather from today is a new understanding of karma. That karma isn't something that necessarily happens in the next life. Karma happens immediately and as quickly as your next breath. Hinduism is the world's third largest religion after Christianity and Islam. Its followers, known as Hindus, number 1.15 billion, or about 15 to 16% of the total world population. Hindus can be found all over the world. Most big populations are in India, Nepal, and Mauritius, but you can find Hindus all over the world. The actual term Hindu is a Persian term that comes to recognize people who lived beyond the river Indus. Hinduism includes a diversity of ideas, of spirituality and traditions, and is fundamentally different from other world religions. There is no ecclesiastical order. There's no pope. There's no leader at the top. There's no unquestionable religious authorities. So there isn't any one person who can say that this is the truth or that this isn't the truth. There's no governing body. There's no prophets. And there's no binding holy book. So as we would call this in the religious terms, this is the religious wild, wild west. Basic Hindu concepts. Hinduism embraces many religious ideas, but it's mostly and generally referred to as a way of life, less a religion. Many forms of Hinduism are henotheistic, meaning that they believe in one God as supreme, or they believe in one God above all other gods. And this is important to recognize when we consider how Hinduism and its henotheism impacted other world faiths. Hindus believe in the doctrines of samsara, the cycles, the continuous cycles of life, death, and reincarnation, and karma, the universal law of cause and effect. One of the key thoughts of Hinduism is Atman, the belief in a soul, a personal soul. This philosophy holds that all living creatures have an Atman, or a soul, which is part of the supreme universal soul, Brahman. So each one of us is an Atman, and we belong to the universal soul of Brahman. The goal is to achieve moksha, or salvation, which ends the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. One of the fundamental principles of the religion is the idea that people's actions and thoughts directly impact their life now and their next life. Hindus strive to achieve Dharma, which is a code of living that emphasizes good conduct and morality. Hindus revere all living creatures and consider the cow a sacred animal. All of us in the world should be thankful that Hindus do not eat beef. Imagine the condition of our climate today if even 1.15 billion more people were eating beef. Food is an important part of life for Hindus. Most don't eat beef or pork, and many are vegetarians. Did you know that the swastika is actually a symbol of Hinduism and many other ancient faiths? The swastika, which comes from the base swasti, means well-being or good. It later became associated with evil, which is what we remember today under the Nazi Party. But here are some samples of swastikas from around the world that came and originated with Hinduism. If you remember nothing more about today's talk, I hope that you will remember this. And I'm going to read it because I don't want to make a mistake. Hinduism is a way of life. According to the Supreme Court of India, unlike other religions in the world, the Hindu religion does not claim any one prophet. It does not worship any one god. It does not believe in any one philosophic concept. It does not follow any one set of religious rites or performances. In fact, it does not satisfy the traditional features of a religion or creed. It is a way of life and nothing more. From a Western standpoint, we see it as a religion. In India, the term Dharma, or way of life, is broader than the Western term of religion. For us, we think of religion somehow as something that we do and something that we believe in. For Hindus, this is the way that they live. Their belief impacts every moment from waking till sleeping in their way of life. In fact, so broad is the range of theists that belong to the Hindu faith that Hindus can be polytheistic, belief in many gods, pantheistic, which is a belief that God is immanent in all things, henotheistic, the worship of one God while recognizing other gods, monotheistic, the belief in one and only God, and monistic, the belief that all things come from a source that is distinct from us, transcendent from us. Agnostic, the belief that God is unknowable and the doubt in God. Atheistic, disbelief in God. You can be an atheist and be a Hindu. You can be a non-theist, not really caring about whether or not there's a God or not. And then a humanist, which is where many fall. Belief that the potential value and goodness of human beings should be our sole concern. Humanists emphasize common human needs and seek rational ways of solving human problems. Hinduism has been called the oldest religion in the world and is often referred to as the Sanatana Dharma, the eternal way, meaning that its faith is beyond history. We'll see these claims reverberated through many religions, that this truth is older than time itself. Scholars regard Hinduism as a synthesis of various Indian cultures and traditions with diverse roots and no founder. This Hindu synthesis started to develop in modern-day India and Pakistan around 500 BCE. So 500 years before Christ, the Hindu faith was well developed. Although Hinduism contains a broad range of philosophies, it is linked by shared concepts, rituals, cosmology, shared scriptures, and sacred texts. Major scriptures include the Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, the Vedas, and the Agamas. Sources of authority and eternal truths play an important role, but there's also a strong role of Hindu tradition. And this tradition questions the authority of these texts, questions whether or not the people who are saying these things are right. And it allows them to continue to develop truth as an ongoing part of their tradition. It's an admirable part of this faith. The doctrine of Atman, Brahman, is an interesting one. Most Hindus believe in Brahman, an uncreated, eternal, infinite, transcendent, and all-embracing principle. Brahman contains in itself both being and non-being. And it is the sole reality, the ultimate cause, the foundation, source, and goal of all existence. And we, with our Atman, are a part of that. Each one of us in Hindu belief has an Atman, a piece of Brahman, the eternal soul. As the all, Brahman either causes the universe and all beings to emanate from itself, transforms itself into the universe, or assumes the appearance of the universe. You can't expect to understand this in this lecture. This is a lifetime of learning. Brahman is in all things and is the self, the Atman of all living beings. Brahman is the creator, the preserver, or transformer, and the reabsorber of everything. It is the beginning, the middle, and the end. It is all things. Karma is the universal law that drives Hindu principles, by which good or bad actions determine the future modes of an individual's existence. Indian theories of salvation believe that births, future births, and life situations will result from your actions in this life. But make no mistake, karma is not something that just happens in the next life. It's something that happens now. Your actions accumulate and they impact you in this life and in the next. The common goal for all Hindus is moksha, release from the cycle of birth and death and rebirth. Karma thus serves two main functions within Indian moral philosophy. Number one, it provides motivation to live a moral life. And number two, more importantly, and so different from all of the other faiths, it explains the existence of evil. I'm going to chat briefly about that because I think it bears discussion. Judaism and Christianity and Islam, the Abrahamic faiths, believe that original sin happened in the Garden of Eden. That at that moment when Eve took a bite, that she revealed in that original sin, this was the stain of humankind, the stain of mankind. When we look back to the Greek myths, we see that, again, Pandora opened the box and released all of the evils on the world. Here, there is a source of evil, and you need look no further than the mirror to find it. The source of all evil is you. It's me. It's us. We are the reason that bad things happen in the world. There's no God that is causing these things. In Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, there's a God that punishes or rewards us for our actions. However, in the classical traditions of India, Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism, they believe that no divine or external agent intervenes in the relationship of the moral act to its inevitable result. I love this graphic. Whatever you do comes right back to hit you again, whether it's good or bad. And this is the foundational principle of karma. Whatever you do comes back to you. And it's not so much that it comes back to you in the next life. We carry it with us because we know intrinsically when we've done right or wrong. We know and we carry it with us. And there's a wonderful quote from Buddhism, which is, you will not be punished by your anger. You will not be punished for your anger. You will be punished by your anger. And in the same way, you will not be rewarded for your goodness and your kindness. You will be rewarded by your goodness and your kindness. The law of karma represents a non-theistic explanation of why there is evil in the world. Samsara is a wonderful concept to understand. This is reincarnation, transmigration. In Hinduism, samsara is a journey of the soul. The body dies, but not the soul, which is the eternal reality, indestructible and blissful. Everything is connected, cyclical, and composed of two things, the soul and matter. The eternal soul, called Atman, your eternal soul, called Atman, never reincarnates. It is the same from body to body, from life to life. It cannot change. In contrast, the body and the personality does change, and it's constantly changing, being born, dying, and being reborn again. Karma impacts your future circumstances in this life as well as the future in your next life. Good intentions and actions lead to a good future. Bad intentions and bad actions lead to a bad future. We tell our children the same thing, right? The range of samsara stretches from insects all the way to the god Brahma. The range of rank, birth in the hierarchy of life depends on one's actions. So how you live in this life determines how you will live in the next life. The aim of spiritual pursuits is self-liberation, moksha from samsara. There are 4 objectives to life. Artha, prosperity. Hindus believe that you should be prosperous and you should enjoy your prosperity. This is a good thing. You should have a purpose in life. You should enjoy your life. You should be successful. And this material satisfaction allows us to pursue the other purusartha, the other 4 goals. Artha is kept in check by dharma, which is a moral obligation and righteousness. So if you have a lot of good things, that's wonderful. But keep it in check. Never have too much. And make sure that you understand your obligation, that with every right comes a responsibility, and with good fortune comes responsibility to manage that fortune. Since abundance and prosperity are qualities of the divine, seeking and possessing such qualities is in accordance with this design. However, artha is a stepping stone. It is not the cornerstone. It's meant to help you. It's not meant to be the goal. Finding contentment in the necessities of life, such as shelter, food, and knowledge, allows one to pursue the other 3 purusarthas. However, when you have too much, it can cause an imbalance, as imbalance can happen in all things. Kama, not to be confused with karma, means desire or pleasure. Most of us are familiar with this, although we'll say that we're not familiar with it in the Kama Sutra, right? Kama offers enjoyment and love for life. This is, again, essential to being part of the divine. Kama contributes to a balanced life, but should not become an obsession. If kama is not fulfilled with mindfulness or is suppressed, this stops us from becoming whole. So we shouldn't obsess about it, but we also shouldn't deny ourselves, because when we deny, we want it even more. And so one must give and receive kama in accordance with dharma, and also create and appreciate kama to pursue moksha, to find this balance, to continue to live and to leave this cycle. Kama in balance. And I say this for all of you here. Find this balance. Even while on board the cruise ship, sometimes I see people who are having their dessert and they say, oh, I shouldn't have this dessert. Have the dessert. Don't have 5 of them, but have a dessert and enjoy it. Be fully in the moment of appreciating that dessert. But then when that dessert is gone, recognize that you might have to walk a little bit too, right? There's this balance. Compassion. Find compassion. Find joy in a humble gesture. Find enjoyment through a massage or through the act of sex with your partner. The aesthetic. Appreciate the beauty of all that surrounds us. When we're looking out from this beautiful ship and seeing the ocean and the beautiful sights that we're seeing, appreciate all of that. Recognize it for what it is, that it's beautiful. However, to overindulge in these things gives us an unstable kama. Greed, addiction, sloth, hedonism, any of these things that come at the cost of another puts us and puts our lives and our futures in imbalance. There is a moral obligation. This is one of the other purusarthas, dharma. Dharma refers not only to social and moral ethics, but to what is right, steadfast, virtuous, and true. Dharma is the way of living properly. It involves duty. It involves moral actions and service to others. It involves sacrifice. Following Dharma is different for each person. Each of us is called, according to our gifts, to express our Dharma and to reveal our life goals in very different ways. Living out one's Dharma means to act in accordance with the law, to come into one's supreme self. What does that mean? It means that I can't judge myself by your goals and by your life, nor should you mine. That we're each responsible for our own lives. We're each responsible for recognizing our gifts. First and foremost, what is our gift? We all have them. Some of us spend our lives denying them. And what this tells us is that we need to accept our gifts and to recognize the responsibility that comes from that gift. To have a gift and to not recognize one's responsibility is to not fully embrace one's supreme self. And therein is the imbalance. Dharma is the natural law that upholds the world and keeps the universe in balance. It's important to recognize that accepting an event and feeling it fully is important. When you lose someone in your life, feel it fully. Allow yourself to grieve and to loss. When you have something good in your life, allow yourself to feel it fully. Feel fully alive and accept it. But recognize all of this is fleeting. It's here now. Be grateful for it, appreciate it, and then let it go. Because it's when we hold on to these things that we cause imbalance in our own lives. Holding tightly, too tightly to one's vision of how things should be. This is what my life is supposed to be. We do this with ourselves, and we also do it with our children. We want our children to live certain ways, and we want them to live ways that we think. We don't know what their path is. We don't know what their life is or their true gifts are. Only they can know that, and only they can find their path. We have to let go. Again, coming back to this idea that's rooted also in Islam. Surrender to one's life, but surrendering also to the recognition of your gifts. And understanding that what we think is fixed and reality is neither fixed nor a reality. Moksha, again, is the ultimate goal for believers, this release from the cycle of death and birth. This comes before nirvana. Moksha is this point in time where you have achieved all that you possibly can achieve, and then the next step is nirvana. Moksha is a place of self-acceptance and oneness with the universe to reveal the Supreme Self. It offers a place of freedom and release from the karmic cycle. Life in balance. Again, attain wealth, but don't let wealth corrupt or distract you. Indulge and enjoy life's pleasures, but don't become obsessed by them. Be moral and righteous, but don't become fixed and rigid. Now we get to talk about the 330 million gods and goddesses of Hinduism. According to the epic Mahabharata, there are 33,333 Hindu deities. Other sources multiply this 1,000-fold. And this was my mistake the first time. I only multiplied it 1,000 times. You have to multiply it 1,000 by 1,000. And that's what reaches 330 million gods. However, the gods are actually referred to as the 33. So here's where the whole mix-up happened. And I'll tell you what, a whole world full of Hindus still don't understand this, which makes it really difficult for the rest of us to understand it. But when Hindus discuss the type of gods, the phrase 33 koti ish is used. In a spiritual or religious context, koti ish means 33 types of gods. However, in mathematics, the word koti also means million. So, someone along the way got confused with the types and used the other meaning for the word million and said, there must be 330 million. This dual meaning has created a lot of problems over the years for Hindus, creating even more misunderstanding and confusion, and created the understanding of the 330 million gods. Today, to clarify, 33 koti is not 33 million or 330 million, but merely 33 types of gods. What are the 33 types of gods? 11 Rudras, 12 Adityas, 8 Vasas, and 2 Asvinis. That means nothing to you, but what I'm going to show you here is what that really means. 8 Vasas, these are the elements of material. So we have sky, earth, wind, fire, stars. Sounds like a 70s rock band. And then you have the 12 Adityas. This list sometimes varies, but here are the personified deities, not the elements of nature. And then the 11 Rudras, and these are really interesting. These are the abstractions. Bliss, knowledge, thought, breath, or life. Revealing grace, concealing grace, self. These are the other gods. And then the 2 Ashvinis. These are known as the divine doctors. So this are the 33 different types of gods. This is a quote from a sarcastic Hindu friend, and it's a favorite of mine. There are approximately 1.15 billion Hindus on the planet. At any given time, an average of about 3 of us may agree on a particular conception or understanding of God. The idea that Hinduism has 330 million gods isn't hard for me to believe at all. I would actually think there would be more. Hindus generally see God in everything and everything in God. Some Hindus are strict conformists to the sacred texts, but some conceive of their gods with greater freedom and allow themselves to explore this beautiful faith without restrictions and to see their God as it makes sense to them. In this faith, gods can be male and female, animal, anthropomorphic, having qualities of a man or qualities of animals, even an element of nature. Nothing is known, all is mystery. So the question, are there 3, 33, 33 million, or 330 million gods? I would say that the answer is irrelevant. The inherent truth is that a belief in gods, no matter the number, is an act of faith in an entity or being that's eminent in all things and yet transcends our understanding. And this is, in fact, the definition of faith, isn't it? To believe in what we can't see or can't understand or know. It doesn't take any act of faith to believe in what you can see. That's what science is for. This is faith. It's something different altogether. Hindus acknowledge that at the most fundamental level, God is one without a second. Here again, we see this principle, and we'll see it now, a triadic Godhead, but a unity. There is one God without a second, the absolute, formless, and only reality known as the Brahman, the supreme and universal soul. Brahman is the universe and everything in it. Whatever you can touch, whatever you can see, whatever you can feel is Brahman. If you can imagine it, it's Brahman. All things are Brahman, and Brahman is in all things. Brahman has no form and no limits. Brahman is reality. Brahman is truth. Hinduism is a pantheistic religion, meaning that it equates God with the universe. God is in all things. God is immanent. If you can see it, it is a God. But yet Hinduism is also polytheistic. It gives expression. So there's one God, but many faces. Brahma, the creator, now we're going to talk about the triune Godhead. This is one of the first trinities, first expressions of a triune Godhead. And this is Brahma, the creator. He's the first member of the Hindu Trinity. Vishnu, the preserver, is the second member of the Trinity. Vishnu also is worshipped in many forms, such as Rama and Krishna. It's a somewhat mysterious God. Vishnu is the divine essence that pervades the universe. And then you have Shiva, the destroyer. And this is where it gets interesting. So you have Brahma, the creator, Vishnu, the preserver, and now Shiva, the destroyer. But Shiva destroys for one purpose, because in order to build and to bring new again, what was old must first be destroyed. And in this, we see the first inklings of the concept of resurrection. The idea that what needs to be reborn again must first die. And this happens through Shiva, the destroyer. Ganesha is one of my favorite gods. I have a statue of Ganesha in my office. And when you go to India, please pay close attention to your taxi drivers. They will have a statue of Ganesha often on their dashboard or hanging from their rearview mirror, because they're praying that with Indian traffic in some of the major cities, that this is going to remove the obstacles in front of them. It's a wonderful religious bit of comedy. Then if you see it, you're part of the inside joke now. Saraswati, the goddess of learning. For those of you ladies who came to one of our question and answer sessions and were asking about goddesses and the power of women in faith, here we see evidence of female goddesses and their power in this faith. Saraswati, the goddess of learning, a really powerful goddess, is the consort of Brahma, the creator. So, Brahma's the creator, and who does he choose? He chooses the goddess of learning. She's worshipped as the goddess of learning, wisdom, speech, and music. And this is also before Athena, the goddess of wisdom, right? So Saraswati gives birth now to the concept to the Greeks of Athena. Hindus offer prayer to Saraswati before beginning any intellectual pursuit. Children will be praying to Saraswati. So here early on, we see a wonderful, balanced prayer, not only to the creator God who is perceived as male, but the goddess of learning who is female. And children are raised with this concept. Lakshmi, the goddess also of good fortune, wealth, and well-being. So if you want good things in your life, you will pray and spend time thinking and giving homage to Lakshmi, who provides all good things, wealth, and well-being. Indra is the king of heaven and lord of the gods. He wields a thunderbolt. So again, try to compare with other religions. We have Thor, we have Zeus, right? The thunderbolt. These are the origins of these gods that all come from Hinduism. Now, my Greek friends will argue with me till they are blue in the face about this, and that's okay. But the simple truth is that Hinduism did predate the Greek mythologies. But again, we see this idea of people trying to explain the forces of nature through gods. And that's the story here. That's the truth. That these myths are not necessarily truth in and of themselves. They point to a deeper truth. Surya is the sun. And look at Surya as a golden warrior arriving on a chariot pulled by 7 white horses. How many of you have seen Helios or Apollos? This is the same thing that we're talking about. Or even in the Egyptian model, you have Ra being pulled through the sky on Kefri, the dung beetle, right? And you have different movements here, but this is the same idea of the sun being pulled across the sky by horses. Agni, the fire god. Hanuman, the monkey king and devoted servant. He's featured in the great epic Ramayana, and he earned the path to deification by performing feats of strength. For those of you who know the story of Heracles, who later became the Roman god Hercules, this is the same story. Hanuman is Heracles. Heracles is Hercules. It's all the same. This is a story that Constantine believed in as well. And he said, I associate myself with this god, Heracles, because Heracles, through his 12 acts, rises to become a god. And the beauty of Hanuman is that through all of us, that we can, through our actions, rise to the level of becoming a god. That we are capable of great things if we allow ourselves to do the work and to make the sacrifices that we can become like a god. There's dualism in all of these faiths, but it's evident in Hinduism. The distinction represented by the gods is not a distinction, however, between good and evil, but rather a distinction between the two ways in which the divine manifests itself in this world. So it's not about good and evil. This is about how God manifests himself or herself in this world, both as benevolent, yet fearful, harmonious and disharmonious, and both transcendent and immanent in all things. There are some wonderful key beliefs in Hinduism, and it's more of a value system to learn. A common thread is a belief in the Supreme Being and adherence to concepts such as truth, Dharma, and karma. Belief in the authority of the Vedas is an important element as well, although people differ on their impressions of what the Vedas mean. Hindus pursue knowledge and understanding of the truth, the very essence of the universe and the only reality of Brahman. According to the Vedas, truth is one, but the wise express it in a variety of ways. And in the same way, they look at their God. That God is one, but its manifestations and its expressions are many. And hence we see this understanding of polytheism and pantheism. Brahman is truth and reality, formless, limitless, all-inclusive, and eternal. It's not an abstract concept. Brahman is all things and in all things. The Vedas are the books that are the ultimate authority. Hindus believe that the Vedas are without beginning and without end. Even when everything else in the universe is destroyed, the Vedas will remain. Christian hold the same thing to be true with Jesus. Jesus is the Word, the Logos. He is the beginning and the end, the Alpha and the Omega. And that when all things are gone, Jesus will remain. And really what we're talking about here is truth, isn't it? That when all things are gone, what will remain is the truth. Dharma can be described as right conduct, righteousness, moral law, and duty. And everyone should strive to achieve Dharma. We should all make Dharma, doing the right thing, central to our lives. Individual souls are immortal. This is an important lesson. A Hindu believes that the individual soul, the Atman, is neither created nor destroyed. It has been, is, and will be. World without end. Amen. Sound familiar? Actions of the soul residing in the body require that it reap the consequences of those actions in the next life. the same soul in a different body. The process of movement of the Atman from one body to another is known as transmigration. So when you die, your soul remains and then continues on to another body to continue its journey. The kind of body that the soul inhabits is determined by karma, actions accumulated in a previous life. So if you don't like your body, folks, you just have to ask yourself what you did in the last life to deserve it. Moksha is liberation, the soul's release from the cycle of death and rebirth. But several paths can lead to this realization. Here's the beauty. There isn't just one path for any of us. The path of duty is one path. The path of knowledge is another. And the path of devotion is yet another. And here again we see this connection to Islam. Unconditional surrender to God. Submission to the will of Allah. We can't really talk about Hinduism without talking about the caste system, and I want to spend a little bit of time thinking about this. How does the caste system work? The main castes were further divided into 3,000 castes and then 25,000 subcastes. So what they did with their gods, they also did with the caste system. Most societies have some sort of social class based on education, culture, and income levels. However, in ancient India, this was inspired by the Hindu scriptures, and people assumed these vital roles based on their abilities. At 3,000 years old, India's caste system is among the oldest forms of surviving social stratification today. While the caste system is seriously flawed, its concept was based on this division. There are 3 or 4 different elements. The Brahman, the priestly intellectual class. This is the top class. Their duties include serving as a gatekeeper of knowledge. So again, we see someone who has to receive the message from the gods. Provide intellectual advice to the governing bodies, who's going to help the government understand the meanings of the scriptures, offer priestly services and religious leadership, and grapple with fundamental questions of life. So everything was being done with them so that they could think about the most important things. Modern examples of this would be philosophers, religious leaders, and teachers. Then we have the Kshatriyas, the warrior class. These would be today the police officers, government officials. These are people who defend the country from external aggression or internal strife, and they specialize in arms and ammunition and tactics of warfare. The Vaishyas, the trade and commerce class, is also important. These are the people who keep the wheels of the economy moving. The Vaishyas specialize in trade and commerce, and they're primarily traders and entrepreneurs. This would be artists, craftsmen, merchants, entrepreneurs, any business owner today. And then you have the Shudras, the labor class. These would be anyone involved in labor in the field, anyone who is a woodworker or a carpenter. This sort of caste is just above the lowest class, but it's an important level because this is where the real work gets done. Farm laborers, construction workers, this is the real meat and potatoes of the economy. And then we have the lowest class, the untouchables, the Ashutalis. Untouchables perform the most menial labor, such as sweeping streets, cleaning sewers, and tanning leather. The creation of this group was a perversion that was set forth and misinterpreted in Hindu scripture. This perversion was challenged by the modern Indian leaders such as Mahatma Gandhi, and in many respects is still at play even today. So how does the caste work? For centuries, caste dictated almost every aspect of Hindu religious and social life, with each group occupying a place in the hierarchy. Rural communities were arranged on the basis of castes. The upper and lower castes lived in segregated colonies. The water wells were not shared. Does this remind you of anything that happened in the United States in the 1960s? Right. These same things happen over and over again, and we have to question, why does it happen? And I'll discuss this towards the end. Brahmins would not accept food or drink from the Shudras. One could only marry within one's caste. And the system bestowed many privileges on the upper class while keeping the lowest classes doing without even the basics most times. Is the caste system legal? In 1950, it was said that it was no longer legal and they needed to start hiring from the lowest economic classes in society. However, in 1989, they were still having problems, and they still have problems today They even talked about other backwards classes, OBCs, which fall between the traditional upper castes and the lowest. So anything that's not the highest and the lowest called other backwards castes. And they're still trying to help bring these people into greater levels of economic prosperity. In recent decades, with the spread of secular education and growing urbanization, the caste system is somewhat declined, but you will see it in full effect when you travel throughout India. You can't but see it. Despite the changes, caste identities remain strong, and you'll see it even in people's names. So even though they have eliminated it, people's names still reflect their caste. The caste system continues to be justified by the concept of samsara and reincarnation. And here we see where religion itself contributes to the degradation of certain people at the lowest ends. The consequences, obviously, with karma have to do with your current life, right? So if you are at the bottom portion of society, if you have nothing, if you're being treated like a slave, it's because you must have done something in past lives to deserve this. You are exactly where you are supposed to be. And of course, those at the top continue to perpetuate this because it keeps them in power and allows the people at the lowest end to continue to receive nothing, while the people at the top receive most everything. There are some wonderful lessons from the Bhagavad Gita, which is one of the Hindu scriptures, and I'll go over these briefly, but I hope that you will take some time to read from the Bhagavad Gita. Set thy heart upon thy work, but never on its reward. Do what you love, and the reward will follow. But don't do it for the reward. Do it because you love it, and the reward will follow. Dream big. We're kept from our goal not by obstacles, but by a clear path to a lesser goal. This is one of my favorites. There's not obstacles that are stopping you. It's just something easier that's right in front of it that you choose to do instead. Why didn't I do this? Well, I chose to do something else. You didn't choose to do nothing. You chose to do something of lesser value. That was easier to do. We have to choose the hard thing. My wife told me today she heard a quote that said, if your dream doesn't scare you, you're not dreaming big enough. And that's the truth. We should be dreaming big. We should be setting our hearts on great things and then working towards those, not letting us being held up by smaller dreams. Let go of attachment. You came here empty-handed and you will leave empty-handed. Whatever you receive now, hold on to it for a little bit. Whether it's heartbreak, joy, sadness, love, hold on to it for a little bit and then let it go, because it's not meant to be yours to keep. This is a personal favorite of mine. Be careful when you follow the masses. Sometimes the M is silent. And I have to share with you, this isn't from the Bhagavad Gita, but I had to share it anyways. Everything happens for a reason. Whatever happened was good. Whatever is happening is good. Whatever will happen will also be good. What has happened. It's all in how you choose to see it. There's nothing more to be done. The future is a picture, it's an illusion. The future will never come, because when the future arrives, it's no longer the future, it's the present. And it's called the present because it's a gift. It's ours to take and to use. And so you don't control the future, you barely control the present, but we do control how we respond to it. So live to the fullest. We are all one. This is a wonderful lesson. The man who sees in me everything and everything within me will not be lost to me, nor will I ever be lost to him. He who is rooted in oneness realizes that I am in every being. Wherever he goes, he remains in me. When he sees all being as equal in suffering or in joy, because they are like himself, that man has grown perfect in yoga. We are happiest and at our best when we see the inherent goodness in all things. Everyone wants to be treated nicely, kindly, so do unto others as you would do to yourself. Give without expecting something in return. This is tough. A gift is pure when it's given from the heart to the right person at the right time and at the right place. And when we expect nothing in return. Because if we give expecting something in return, it's not really a gift, is it? You are what you think you are. We behold what we are, and we are what we behold. Whatever you think of yourself, you're right. At any given moment, whatever you believe about yourself is right. And so it's up to us to think better of ourselves and about others. Closing thought today is what we believe determines how we act. If we believe that we are all equal, we strive for equality, don't we? If we believe that we are better than others, we subjugate others or we accept the status quo for our advantage. This is a hard one to swallow, but our world today accurately reflects what we believe, for better or for worse. Be of good intention. Your words and your actions will follow. And more importantly, be the change that you want to see in the world. And in this, I close. Thank you very much.